Let's go, AB. Let's go, Lenny.
Dropping Brady. Brady dumps it off. Punt ball. Fournette's got the catch.
Run his ass over. He don't want none.
Snap, run the ball to the right. Got a fly going to the 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Tampa Bay.
Yeah. I didn't score because I wanted you to score.
Robbie G might score.
I was not even 30.
You see Lenny on that drive?
Well, that's a man running the football. 230-pound running back. And Nyman was run over, a linebacker.
He going crazy. Play off Lenny. Bowl Lenny.
Play off Lenny.
Wow.
This is the Big Nasty. Yeah, Big Nasty Hall of Fame Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan, baby.
This is Michael Allstott, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you're listening to the Cannon Fire Podcast.
Cannon Fire Podcast, brother. You ain't listening, and you're missing out. Woo!
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new edition of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Sorry about that extended intro there. We are live on YouTube today for episode 176. We got some breaking news for you guys, and I'm sure that you saw that on-the-spot video editing that went on there. Hopefully you can appreciate that. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? I am your host, as always, Rhett Matthew, joined alongside me, my good buddy and co-host, the Philly Bucs fan himself, Mr. Evan Wanish. And of course, since we are handling breaking news, we have got the honorary third member of the show, Mr. Bucs Nation, a.k.a. James Hill, right here on YouTube, hanging out with us. What is that breaking news I referred to? Well, the Buccaneers signed a running back today. It was one of their own, Leonard Fournette. The man, playoff Lenny, is back on a one-year deal, $3.25 million, with up to $4 million in incentives. Says a lot about the market that he got. But we'll talk about all that shortly. Welcome back to the show, boys. How are we doing?
Doing just fine. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm a little stressed. If you're watching live over on our YouTube, I had to do some on-the-spot editing really quick because I opened up our live stream setup and there is no video. So, I got to go in there and make some stuff happen, but it's nothing I'm not accustomed to. James, how are you, my friend?
Doing pretty good. See Frank in the chat.
Yes, sir. You and Frank were in the midst of that epic bidding war that we had last week, huh?
We've had our financial wars, but it's fine. No, but I'm doing pretty good, man. Doing pretty good. Yeah, I got some Bucs news to talk about, and and also we're going into the weekend, so
everybody's working for the weekend. I honestly, I gotta be honest. I said I was doing fine. I could be doing better. I could be doing better. It's nothing to do with the Bucs. That's all fine and dandy, whatever. But I mean, the Flyers are giving up 8 goals a game, basically. The Sixers didn't trade for Kyle Lowry. It's a nice day here. I mean, that's good. But other than that, I don't know. We got a crazy NFL day, though. I know the Bucs made a move, but in the past 20 minutes, right before we started doing this, throw out your mock drafts, folks, because it is completely changed now.
Absolutely. That top 10 order, the Dolphins were involved in 2 pretty big picks to determine
within 5 minutes of each other.
Yeah, exactly. So to say that they're going in on a certain quarterback is quite the understatement. But let's talk about what's happening with Tampa Bay. So like we said at the top of the show, Leonard Fournette, playoff Lenny, returns to Tampa on a 1-year deal, $3.25 million, $4 million with incentives. Says a whole lot about his market, or as far as what other teams thought of him for him to come back to Tampa Bay on seemingly a low price. Like, I really was under the assumption that that Fournette had earned his money during that playoff run, and there would be plenty of teams ready to pay for him, and I guess that just wasn't the case.
No,
Yeah.
it clearly wasn't. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Yeah, it was interesting. You know, we had heard about all these teams that were supposedly interested. It seems like that they were all interested, you know, probably just for a low amount of money, you know. It seems like the money just wasn't there for Leonard Fournette, seemingly. You know, who knows? Yeah,
and quick shout out to our live chat before we go any further. Some other people checking in. We talked to Frank G, our buddy Chase checking in, Pac-Man 504, who was also in that bidding war. Let's not forget John Romulo Lanuvo. I think I said that correctly. Lane Johnson, Jay Reviews, everybody else hanging out with us. We truly do appreciate you. Willie Beeman checking in, and NFL God with the $2 super chat, watching the stream at school in class. Gotta go. Well, listen, the fact that you donated to the Wendy's Fund before you took off is truly something that means a lot to us. Thank you for your support, NFL God. Truly a pleasure to have you here, buddy. So, the Buccaneers get a running back. Let's talk about the effects of the draft. We know that, you know, they can still pretty much have as much fun as they want to at pick 32, but does it close the door on drafting a running back maybe at 32? Because I still think they go out and sign another pass-catching back, but you know, to get a guy like ETN or Harris at 32, if they're there right now, just seems like something they really don't need, because when you've got Leonard Fournette, Ronald Jones poised to have a big year, whoever they can fill in there, and then you got Keyshawn Vaughn still in that running back room for at least another season, you know, I think a lot of signs point away to taking a running back at 32, even if they're there.
I'm going to disagree. Just because I think they're done in free agency as far as running back goes. I would be pretty surprised to see them add a pass catching back at this point in free agency. I think it was either Fournette or a pass catching running back. And I thought, you know, once you saw James White re-sign New England, it was kind of, you know, a hint that this was coming, right? Like, it was like, that's why I wasn't really surprised when I heard the news this morning, because like it was kind of a hint that, you know, this was going to come pretty quickly, I thought. And if Travis Etienne or Najee Harris is there, I think you still got to take him. I obviously, Rhett knows, James knows that, like, I'm not a big first round running back guy, and I think that you can find value a lot of different spots at running back. You don't just have to, you know, draft the Saquon Barkley every year. But this year, for one, they're sitting at 32, so they're at the very end of the draft, like the first round. So it's essentially almost an early second round pick.
Yeah,
because there's not 32 first round talent players, right? There never is. In any draft, there's not 32 players that belong in the first round. So you're going to be drafting some second round players. And the other one that we're going to talk about, I'm sure, a lot, this team just doesn't have a lot of, like, where are the needs? Like,
there isn't one. For the first time in many years, we're headed into the draft where there isn't a huge glaring need on this football team.
I mean, you can nitpick and stuff like that, and I did on Twitter the other day. They still need that third, I think, pass rusher. They still need a fourth corner. Obviously, you're not drafting a fourth corner at 32, I don't think. But they need that third pass rusher plus the future after, like, JPP and stuff. Obviously, I still think need one more wide receiver, but we'll see what happens with Antonio Brown and some other names we'll talk about in a little bit. But, I mean, if Najee Harris or Travis Etienne is there, I think they're going to take him. And I still wouldn't rule out in the first 3 or 4 rounds, like you've said, they've shown a lot of interest in Demetric Felton from UCLA, the running back / wide receiver. So, I mean, there's a lot of different names. I wouldn't rule out completely them drafting a running back early. Maybe not in the first round, but I still do expect them to draft one early. Because here's one more thing. Jones and Fournette are now both free agents next year.
Absolutely.
You're not going to bring both of them back. Maybe one, but you're not bringing both of them back. So you might have to have a future plan there.
What do you think, James?
I mean, myself personally, I think this probably eliminates them taking a running back with pick 32. I would, if Najee Harris and Travis Etienne were on the board at pick 32, they might take them, but I would see a scenario where they would maybe just trade down, you know. and kind of focus on getting more depth at other positions. Maybe like the offensive line, pass rusher, like we just talked about. Cornerback needs a little bit of depth. And getting more picks to acquire more depth and spread that out a little bit more, I think could be a very solid move. That's kind of the route I think that they would take. Maybe they do get a pass rusher at 32 now. Evan, you made a good point. Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette are both, on expiring contracts now. They still have Keyshawn Vaughn, who didn't get any playing time in year number 1. Was he a third-round pick or a fourth-round pick?
Third round.
I believe he was a third-round pick. Yeah. So, he's a third-round pick. He could still show some ability, and, he'd still have 3 years. Well, yeah, 3 years left on his deal. So overall, I think that, Keyshawn Vaughn could be one of those guys who they just look to move forward with in the future, regardless of what happens with Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette and them. I think that they would maybe trade down.
Yeah. I'm still kind of in the boat to think that trading down is a good option. We've talked about depth along that defensive line before. Bolstering up the trenches is something that nobody can really argue against at this point. And when you're in the position that Tampa Bay is, stacking up on young players in key positions like the trenches is obviously going to take you a little bit farther than it would, let's say, I don't know, a corner that you're not going to use for so long, or a running back that doesn't really need to be that guy year 1, depending on who it is, if you take him at 32, or even in the first 3 rounds, because Buccaneers still have a third-round running back on the roster that, just like you said, James, didn't see any playing time. And as far as Evan is concerned, Evan says Vaughn is a bust, and there's no hope whatsoever. So I guess that ship has sailed.
I didn't like the pick when they made it, and I just don't like it. I'll eat crow if I'm wrong. I will gladly come on this show and eat crow. But man, oh man, I don't see it. I do think they'll give him a shot, but I don't think it's gonna work out.
So let's take a look at what the Buccaneers have done so far. To put it simply, they are putting on a clinic to other NFL teams on how to basically keep your team together and stay within the means of the cap. They have done a great job. Now, that Leonard Fournette deal we talked about, there's no voidable years on that. It's just the 1-year hit, and that's it. But pretty much every other deal that they have signed up until this point, if it's not a restructure, they're using these voidable years, and it's been a great way to play Cap Olympics. So throughout all of that, they have successfully signed every single starter from their Super Bowl 55 victory for the 2021 season. There is one guy who wasn't a starter, but there's pretty much one name left when you look at Buccaneers free agency, and there's a lot of rumors floating around this position just because of something that's come out here in the last few days, and we'll talk about that. But Antonio Brown, the last guy on this team, as far as we're concerned, to kind of be a make or break for that wide receiver position if the Bucs want to bring him back. What do you think happens with AB? Similar to what we said with Antonio Brown, I think we said it a couple of episodes ago. It felt like the more time goes by, the better we felt about these guys coming back. And we kind of saw that with Fournette's deal. It's a cheap $3.5 million deal. I really thought other teams were going to pay him a little bit more, but that's what he got, and he remains in Tampa Bay. Do you think the case is similar with Antonio Brown? Is there just, not a market? Do teams not want to take a chance on this guy, or is it just, I don't know, things kind of moving slow here?
Yeah, funnily enough, I thought Antonio Brown was going to re-sign, before Leonard Fournette. I thought that it was more likely that Antonio Brown would re-sign first before Leonard Fournette. And now we've got a situation where Fournette's already re-signed Antonio Brown's last name. I wasn't expecting that. I thought it would kind of be the reverse. But I think Antonio Brown, we've talked about this before here on the podcast. It's so tough to gauge the market for Antonio Brown because of the off-field stuff, because of his want to play with Tom Brady. What are other teams willing to pay him, things like that. I see a similar situation to where Antonio Brown will get a deal done with Tampa Bay, probably. At least that's what I'm leaning more towards now. I was 50-50 on it, but now I'm kind of leaning more towards the deal probably getting done. I expect it to be a low dollar value, kind of like a not a prove it situation, but more of just kind of like, hey man, you kind of don't really have a lot of options right now. That would kind of be what I would expect.
the last time we talked about Antonio Brown, the interest from other teams, the only one we had really heard about was Seattle. Somebody in the live chat brought a good point. I think it was TB12 Goatman. He said Kansas City is also a team that could be in the mix just because we've seen them make a push on wide receivers. But I still feel like Russell Wilson, if he is telling Seattle he wants Antonio Brown, obviously that conversation is still happening. If he finds himself in a situation where the market price isn't that high, and let's say, I don't know, Seattle throws a deal at him that's under $10 million and the Buccaneers can't really match it. They can only come up to maybe, $2 million short. It's a difference of $1 million or $2 million, basically, to stay in Tampa or go to another team that would want to take a chance on a guy like that. Do you think Antonio Brown, Evan, is going to re-sign in Tampa, stick around with Tom Brady, or do you think he's still kind of the guy who, if he can get more money elsewhere, that's what he'll do?
Do the Seahawks or Chiefs have Tom Brady?
Nope.
No.
Well, I mean, Kansas City's got Patrick Mahomes. You can't ignore that.
But
the guy who
is he Tom Brady?
He is not.
Okay. All right. So there you go. I at this point, I don't see unless somebody really overpays him, in which I saw somebody in the live chat say a 1-year deal for $5 million. If Brown comes back, I think it's even less than that. I mean, it's going to be less than Fournette. It's literally going to be at their price. It's going to be at their price. They're not, there's not much trust there. And obviously every day we talked about this, every single day that we go to bed and wake up and he's still not signed, his price drops maybe just a little bit. And eventually that price is going to drop so low that the Bucs are saying, okay. I don't think the Bucs have ruled out an Antonio Brown return. I don't think Antonio Brown has ruled out a return. I know that they still would like him back. I know that Brown has interest in coming back because the Buccaneers have number 12. But I also wouldn't rule out them, possibly moving on, just because once you're out there a while, you're out there for so long, it kind of seems like, it's maybe they are looking at other options. It's a stacked wide receiver draft class, right? You can probably get a guy in the 4th or 5th round that can do what Brown does. And they do like Tyler Johnson. They like Scotty Miller. I've seen a lot of people, Scotty Miller can just replace Antonio Brown. Scotty Miller and Antonio Brown are two completely different players.
Yeah.
Scotty Miller, I love Scooter, but he does one thing. He literally does one thing. He runs straight and runs deep. That's what his job is. So if Antonio Brown were to leave and they weren't to maybe sign a guy that's been mentioned in the chat here a lot, or draft a wide receiver, I think you would see a guy like Tyler Johnson get most of those snaps. But I do agree with James. I'm not sure if you said it or not, Rhett, but I think Antonio Brown comes back. I don't think it's going to be too much longer. He's going to be sitting out there. I do think he comes back.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm also in the camp that thinks Antonio Brown comes back to Tampa Bay. James, what are your thoughts on AB? And then after that, we'll talk about these rumors a little bit.
He already gave us thoughts on AB.
I think he's going to come back.
You're right. No, you're right. I'm sorry. I got too busy caught up reading the live chat. Oh, man. That's what I get for reading the chat so closely. All right. So let's go ahead and talk about what happens if Antonio Brown does not return, because that's the only place I see these rumors coming to fruition. Over the last few days, there's been a couple of pages reporting that the Buccaneers are making a strong push, and a couple of players are making a strong push to get Larry Fitzgerald. And on a surface level, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Larry Fitzgerald, a free agent for the first time in his career, a guy who in 2018 said that he would never, ever play anywhere but Arizona, and I still think that holds true to this day. But the connections are there. Obviously, Bruce Arians coached him for a couple of years. He's a guy who's looking to get a championship. He's on his way out. Why not Tampa? Well, I'll tell you why not Tampa. Because literally nobody has reported the same thing except for, where did this rumor start? Just an NFL Twitter rumor page, and that's it. So sources, trust me, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it's so this one, and it's a popular Twitter account, and it's an NFL rumors account that had tweeted out. He basically, if you look at his page, he basically makes connections. Tries to make player to team connections based on who's on the coaching staff, who's other players there. And he said a few weeks ago, Larry Fitzgerald could it's either going to be the Bucs or the Vikings if he decides not to return to Arizona or decides to keep playing, because I believe he's from Minnesota or something.
He is, yeah.
So he's from Minnesota, so that would be the Vikings connection. And then obviously the Bucs connection's obvious. A chance to play with Tom Brady, a chance to get a championship ring, and be back with Bruce Arians and Kevin Garver, who he has really had a high praise for. Larry Fitzgerald, the wide receivers coach for the Buccaneers, Kevin Garver. Larry Fitzgerald has told people that, like, you know, Kevin Garver, like, this guy is the real deal, and he has a lot of respect for him. So this page had, you know, sort of speculated, but then comes out and says, report, you know, the Bucs are trying to, you know, convince Larry Fitzgerald, and Bucs players are trying to convince Larry Fitzgerald, and then all these Bucs pages just run with it. And that leads fans to believe that, you know, it's an actual thing. I can't rule it out because Antonio Brown is not re-signed yet, and the connection is obvious. Like, the reasons, like, it wouldn't surprise me because it makes so much sense. But, like, that's not an actual source. Like, that's not like, I'm sorry. Like, he's not. He's making guesses based on connections, and he like, if he's wrong, nobody's gonna kill him for it because he keeps saying, oh, then all he has to say is, oh, the Bucs couldn't convince him, and he's gonna retire, or he's gonna go back to Arizona. I don't know.
And like I said at the start, you know, Larry Fitzgerald to Tampa is obviously something that makes a lot of sense, but it's nothing that I would put any stock into until we see Antonio Brown not return to Tampa Bay. Mm-hmm. Because as of right now, there are so many more pros to signing a guy like Antonio Brown than there is to signing Larry Legend. And as great of a wide receiver as Larry Fitzgerald is, I have no doubts that he would come on this team and play well. But, like, dude, it's Antonio Brown, and I feel like
Antonio Brown is better than Larry Fitzgerald.
Exactly. He can do so much more. He's a better player, and the Bucs could probably get him for a little bit cheaper, which is the craziest part in all of this. James, what are your thoughts on these rumors?
Thank God I didn't make my Larry Fitzgerald Bucs video. No, man, we see stuff like this from time to time. Sometimes it's, you know, non-Bucs accounts. Sometimes it's Bucs accounts themselves who do this, and
there's a lot of Bucs accounts that I'm kind of disappointed in just for picking it up the way that they have.
I agree with that. You know, it's one of those things where it's like, just throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. You know.
Yeah.
And this is kind of another typical situation like that. We've seen situations like this before, not just with the Buccaneers, but with a lot of different teams. You know, people make it would be like if one of us got on social media and said, hey, according to my sources, you know, the Bucs are really about, you know, they're thinking about signing so-and-so. And then it's just us making a connection of, well, Bruce Arians used to coach him, and, you know, yeah, that could make sense.
How many
I'm going to say that it might actually happen, you know?
How many players over the last 2 years has everybody said, oh, you know, keep an eye out for this guy because Bruce Arians coached him at one point? I mean, how many players did we say, and how many of those guys did not end up on the team? It's just kind of one of those situations where people are making connections and starting these rumors before any real traction gets going. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't see there's no weight behind it, you know, it's just exactly what Evan said. It's somebody making a connection. It would be like if one of us did it, you know, and there are some outlets who are picking it up, and, you know, that's their decision to do that. You know, that's fine. Hell, I thought about making a Larry Fitz video.
I mean, outlets have picked it up because it makes sense. It's not like egregious, you know.
Right.
Like it makes sense.
I would have phrased it. I would have phrased it differently, though. I wouldn't have phrased it as like, oh, this is a report. He's making a report that players are trying to recruit him. Right. If I was like an outlet and I was trying to make a thing on it, I would have phrased it as like, should they go and do this? Well, it makes sense. It might not happen, but maybe, you know. And also, like I said, Larry Fitzgerald at this point in his career is not better than Antonio Brown.
No way.
Antonio Brown's what, 5 years younger?
Yeah, I think Antonio Brown's 32, going to turn 33, and Larry Fitzgerald's like 37, I think. So yeah. I understand. Like, I still think Fitzgerald's not completely cooked, but you can't tell me that Antonio Brown's not a better option. Like, so, like, I see a lot of people saying, oh, Larry Fitzgerald's not coming. You better hope he's not, because Antonio Brown's a better player. If you're talking about strictly football, and that's what we're talking about, we're not talking about anything off field or anything like that right now. We are not putting that into this decision, which, I mean, the Bucs have to, obviously. But if we're just talking about this, Antonio Brown is the better player right now, is going to be the better player. And it just already has been in the offense. I understand Larry Fitzgerald's in the offense. Antonio Brown was most recently in this offense. So Willie Beeman says Larry Fitzgerald's older than me. I mean, yeah, I don't know how old you are, Willie, but I mean, no, can you suit up? I mean, you might have a little bit more.
Come on, Willie.
Hank.
My final thought on it is this, like, just for everybody in the chat and whoever else watches this, like, right now, nothing behind it. It's a rumor and nothing else.
Exactly.
Like, that is absolutely, you know, if an outlet is talking about it, it's a rumor. At the end of the day, that is what it is.
This is speculation. This is not...
there's no sources behind it. Like, there's no weight behind it right now. None of, you know, we're not seeing any of the big guys report about it. Like, you know, it's a rumor. That is what it is. But I will say this, it may turn into something a little bit more than a rumor if and only if it comes out that the Bucs are not bringing back Antonio Brown.
Then I think that the chances actually increase a lot, I think, if Antonio Brown doesn't come back. But right now, their priority is Antonio Brown. So Joel is saying, you know, and like we said, we weren't really talking about off-field stuff, but you guys are forgetting that AB has court cases pending right now. Sure, those court cases are in December. So the season's pretty much almost over by that point. So I don't really think that's going to sway, you know, the Bucs' decision, and that should also make Antonio Brown even cheaper that he does have a court case. That is the baggage that may keep AB out of football. He's coming back. He's going to play for somebody. Like, I guarantee you, Antonio Brown's going to be on the roster come week 1. Like, he is. I don't know what roster, but, like, everybody's saying, oh, he's not even going to be back in football. If he wasn't going to be back in football, he wouldn't have even been with Tampa last year. Like, that was his last chance, and he passed the test.
And I mean, we've talked a lot about the off the field Antonio Brown stuff, so we don't need
we don't condone any of it.
We don't. Yeah, exactly. But you know, we don't really need to reiterate it, but we do need to take a realistic look at what we're dealing with, folks. And is I guess as sad but true as it is, let's just remember that this is also the NFL, the landscape of the NFL. Unless there are criminal charges ready to go, chances are you're going to be able to play. So like Evan said, I do have a pretty good feeling about Antonio Brown being on a roster week 1 of the 2021 season. The question right now still remains if it's going to be Tampa Bay or not, but I do have a pretty good feeling. Let's go ahead and shout out a lot of the people in the live chat because we have been neglecting them far too long, and I'll tell you that's the reason why right there. Amazement coming through and laying it all on the table. $10 to the Wendy's Fun. What do you guys think of the Winston Emotional Breeze video? I like Jameis Winston, but I can't root for the Saints. Sorry. Any other team, I would root for them. Well, as far as rooting for Jameis goes, I mean, I agree with you. I hope the guy does well. I think he will be a talented player. I think he'll still throw a lot of interceptions, but I don't hope he succeeds in New Orleans because I hate that team. But the clip that everybody's talking about, I didn't see it. I didn't watch it. I don't really have any. I don't really have any interest in watching it. You know, if like Tom Brady was getting emotional about a former Bucs quarterback, that'd be one thing. But like, I don't know, dude. Like, I just don't really follow him like that anymore. And if he has all those great things to say about Drew Brees, that's great. But at the end of the day, he's not my QB anymore. I
don't cover Jameis Winston, so I'm sorry. And Bree sending in a $10 super chat. Number one fan.
Thank you. Here's the thing. I know she's over at her mom's house right now, and you know we refer to her mom as my number one fan. So I don't really know if that's coming from her or her mom.
Yeah, but did her mom like hack her account or something and just put $10 in? Or
you never know. But shout out to Bree. Thank you so much for your donation. You guys are the best.
There we go. Willie Beeman says, maybe I can suit up, Evan. I'm 5'9", 200 pounds, play corner high school. I said the Bucs need a number 4 corner. So
there you go, man.
And then we got I don't cover I don't cover Jameis Winston. So it's nice, but I don't do it. Hang on real quick. Edelman or Larry, who would y'all take? History with Brady or history with the coaches? Can I say neither? But realistically, Larry Fitzgerald's a free agent. Julian Edelman is not. I don't know. I think a lot of people seem to think that Julian Edelman is a free agent, and he's not. And also, Larry Fitzgerald probably fits the offense better, so I'd probably take Larry Fitzgerald. But yeah, like, can I just say Antonio Brown? I guess.
Yeah, and everybody addressing, what we talked about. Listen, if you give us a super chat and you ask us a question, we're gonna answer your question. That's
right.
what it boils down to, guys. What are your thoughts on Marshawn Lattimore in jail now from Bucs Skull Gang?
Don't cover him either.
Yeah, we don't cover Marshawn Lattimore. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Shit happens, I guess. Wrong place at the wrong time.
There's basically two Saints in jail then, right? Because Marshawn Lattimore's locked up, and we already saw Carlton Davis lock up Michael Thomas. So.
Oh my, yeah, hell yeah, let's go. We got it in, baby.
What's going on, man? Biz610, he says he's on his lunch break right now, but he can catch us for a little bit. Nathan Elliott says, improve the backup DT position. When Vita Vea is missing, the defense performance drops. Yeah, that's a great point, man. That is a great point. So some backup defensive tackles. And here's the question I want to ask you guys. Are the Buccaneers going to make any more moves to address the middle of the line, if not through the draft? I mean, at this point, I don't think they're going to sign any D tackles, but it is a weak D tackle class, and we've talked about that before. So is this the year to do it, or do you kind of just roll the dice with what you got now?
Well, I think I think the money would be on the draft. I wouldn't expect, especially Lawrence Guy. I believe we talked about the other day. He had just re-signed with New England. Yeah. He was another guy. Wow, I'm getting a lot of love in the chat though. Everybody seems to like that one. So
Evan, put yourself over. Act like you've been here before. Face the franchise.
I have. That's why I'm the face of the franchise. That's not that's not really a thing. But yeah, I would expect them to maybe draft one. It's a very weak defensive line class, especially on the interior. So it's tough to say draft one early. But if a guy's there in the 4th or 5th, I can see it. What do you think, James?
Well, in my recent mock draft, I had them taking a DT in the 2nd round, to Feely out of USC. I still think that could, maybe be an option, have a rotation of Vita Vea, Will Golston, Raheem Nunez-Roches, and Sue, and then a 2nd round pick. I mean, that's a solid D-line right there. Sue isn't getting any younger. You got to have a future for him. You also got to have a potential plan for maybe a future cap casualty in Will Golston. I don't really know how many more years are left on his contract. This might be the last year of his deal. I don't remember.
Will Golston?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is his last year.
Yeah, so I think that even like a 2nd round guy would still make some amount of sense, just because you're preparing for the future there. And kind of just getting more bodies in there. They also have a lot of interesting guys already in place that kind of rotate around, like Sue can play defensive tackle. You can kind of flip him at certain points. Nacho can play defensive tackle. Khalil Davis actually showed up in some good moments throughout the regular season last year, as well as just a couple of other guys who they can kind of put in there. I would still think maybe like a 2nd round pick in the draft could be something they look at, though.
Yeah, I tend to agree there. A lot of other conversation happening in the live chat right now. Shout out to all of our people over on YouTube. If you're watching the stream right now and you have not subscribed to the channel, make sure you do so. We've been doing a lot of live streams lately, been having a lot of fun with them. Typically, whenever some breaking news happens, we try to be on top of it as quickly as possible. And of course, today we have got our good buddy, Mr. Bucs Nation, hanging out with us as we talk about Leonard Fournette re-signing his deal. Now, what I've seen lately in the chat is a lot of talk about Gerald McCoy, and I think this is because of his tweet that he put out the other day talking about how he's been in Tampa for 15 minutes and he already got free food. Somebody else had mentioned how Gerald McCoy lives in Tampa, and Gerald McCoy's always had a house in Tampa. He went and played for Dallas, he went and played for Carolina. He's always had a house in Tampa, and he's not shy to talk about how much he loves Tampa Bay. Now, we talked about this 2 or 3 episodes ago, the possibility of a guy like Gerald McCoy coming back to maybe help out that D-tackle position. We talked about, personally, I don't see a place for it. I know that the consensus we came to is that if he comes here, he's going to be a guy who's strictly used on passing downs because he's not a great run support DT. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know. We won't spend too much time on it, but I did just want to get your 2 cents one more time as we kind of get, an updated look at the situation here.
So, I mean, John Gruden and Tony Dungy still have houses in Tampa.
Yeah, right.
Tampa's a nice place to live. It makes sense. I'm sure McCoy would love to return. Adrian Peterson would also like to come. Every veteran that's looking for a ring is going to have Tampa in their top 3 or 4 teams. That they are. There's probably a boatload of veterans right now that if Tampa calls them, they're there. They are there. And probably not for a lot of money. Gerald McCoy would not cost a lot of money. When we spoke on this a few weeks ago, it wasn't a rumor. This is not a rumor. It's not. It's like this is even less of a rumor than the Larry Fitzgerald thing is, because this is literally just a what if. Because Gerald McCoy said he would be open to it. I just don't think the Bucs really are. They respect Gerald McCoy. They love Gerald in that building. Like they do. They respect the hell out of him. They realize what he did for them and how much he gave to this organization and stuff like that. And his name's gonna be in the stadium one day. He's gonna be in the Ring of Honor, right? But at this point, I just don't know if they're gonna do it. However, I did say when we talked about it, there's worse options that they could do.
Yeah.
There's worse guys out there that I could think of that they could sign rather than Gerald McCoy, right? So I would be open to it. I actually would if he was willing to come for a one year, $1.5 $2 million deal. I would be open to it because especially on a defensive line, you can never have enough depth. And you can monitor his injury. He said he's feeling good. He should be ready to go by training camp. He's a great locker room guy. I know people said he's soft. Dude, Tristan Wirfs is soft, but he and nobody complains because I guess I don't know, he's a rookie and he played well. Everybody says that. Bradley Pinion came on the show and said Vita Vea is a teddy bear. Vita Vea is a big teddy bear in that locker room. So I don't understand why people have such an issue with Gerald McCoy being soft per se. I don't get it. I don't think it happens. I wouldn't bet on it at all. But like I said, again, I can think of worse options than Gerald McCoy.
Steve G with a good question here in the live chat, and we'll start to wrap it up here. Are the Buccaneers in a market for a backup quarterback this offseason, or is it something that we can expect in the years coming?
Blaine Gabbert.
Yeah, I think they'll bring back Blaine Gabbert.
Blaine Gabbert, future of the franchise,
Love him. Love the gift of Gabbert,
The gift of Gabbert, boy.
He's a beautiful man. Well, it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be more interesting to see what happens with that third quarterback position, because I think, and Evan would agree with me, Josh Rosen was still here, man. He would have been our guy. He would have been our guy. He would have had Ryan Griffin's spot. I still don't think they bring back Ryan Griffin personally. I think that they'll get a younger guy in there for that third spot, kind of somebody that they can develop behind Tom Brady and Blaine Gabbert. So honestly, I think the backup quarterback position is pretty much locked in stone. It's going to be Blaine Gabbert, but I'd pay more attention to that third quarterback spot, which I know sounds weird, but they get a young developmental guy back there. Who knows? Pay attention.
See, I think it's going to be Ryan Griffin, just because Tom Brady's not going to throw until training camp, and if they're expected to have some sort of mini camp or OTAs or something, I think the Bucs are going to want quarterbacks familiar with the system, and Ryan Griffin is obviously familiar. I saw somebody said that Gerald McCoy only played one full season healthy. That's a lie. I have the numbers right here. He played all 16 games in Carolina. He played all 16 games in 2012 and 2013 in Tampa. He played 13 games his rookie season. 2011, 6 games. Okay, he dealt with an injury there. Then 16, 16, 13, 15, 15, 15, 14. So I'm not sure why everybody thinks that, this dude's just injury prone. He's dealt with some injuries, but say he hasn't played a full season. I don't know. I think you'd take 14, 15 games from anybody pretty much. It's the NFL. It hurts getting hit, multiple times every weekend. So, I'm not saying that, they should just, bring back McCoy and stuff. Everybody's saying soft. That doesn't make, okay, whatever.
Everybody's mad at you, man. You went from getting popped in the chat to now they're booing you.
It's the face of the franchise, but it's also the heel of the program. So, I gotta, even when GMC played all 16 games, he was still hurt. That's a feather in his cap. Like, he was hurt playing. Like, I don't know what your big deal is there. I don't get it. Whatever. Trade for Darnold. That's not going to happen.
No way, man.
Sam Darnold is the white Jameis Winston. I'm sorry. He is.
We'll leave it with this. Our buddy Steve G in the live chat says, Bruce Arians says, I sometimes just sit back and watch Tom Brady coach. It's pretty rare for a coach to say, Brady is a future coach. Can he leave the game completely? I mean, he can, but I don't think he'll be gone for very long. It's really just a question of when he'll stop playing. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, when he's done playing, I think he'll want to experience life, but TB12 has a love for this game that is unmatched. And, I mean, it doesn't shock me to think that he would wind up on a coaching staff somewhere. But at the same time, I also feel like there's just as big of a part of him that, you know, once he finally hangs it up and he's done, like, he's done, you know? Like, I really kind of think that's the side that even Tom Brady's weighing with himself right now.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. You know, if my plan comes to fruition, you know, Bruce Arians will have his retirement, you know, press conference, you know, maybe after next year if they win another Super Bowl, and, you know, he's going to be sitting there and they'll be like, oh, man, well, Bruce, you know, somebody's going to ask him. They're like, well, Bruce, who do you have as a successor to the head coaching position? And he'll be like, I'm glad you asked. And then Tom Brady's going to kick the door down and walk in with sunglasses on. He's the new head coach / quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
/ quarterback. He's
Yeah.
He just tags himself in whenever they need that game-winning drive. But, ladies and gentlemen,
that's like the longest yard. Do you guys see like the, you know, with like the newest one with Adam Sandler?
Yeah.
It's like at the end when they need a 2-point conversion and Burt Reynolds goes in.
Exactly.
He's like, you know, I didn't just come here to coach. He's just sitting there in uniform. He's not even in a polo. He's just, you know, he's literally in pads and stuff just the whole time. Nobody can take number 12 because that's the coach's number.
Yeah.
First time would ever happen.
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, a little bit of a shorter episode today, but that's just about going to do it for this episode of the Cannon Fire podcast. I really appreciate you guys hanging out for us in the live chat. We wanted to go live, get on top of the Leonard Fournette signing, and of course just, you know, kind of talk about some other Bucs stuff. We talked about Larry Fitzgerald rumors, and if you want to check out any of the other episodes from this week, I think they're still a little bit timely, except for the Leonard Fournette one, obviously, but we've talked about a lot this week. Wanted to jump on here one more time to cover Fournette, and obviously talk to you great people. Everybody who gave a super chat, we do appreciate you guys as well. And if you haven't already subscribed to the YouTube channel, best place to experience the show. We got plenty of great video content that isn't just the podcast, and that's the great thing about YouTube. YouTube.com/Canonfire Podcast. Turn on your notifications to, I guess, know whenever we upload something, know whenever we go live. The minute we do it, you'll be among the first to know. Be a part of that notification squad. Check out the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show. And, of course, Buccaneer news as it happens. You can, speaking of Bucs news as it happens, sorry, I'm kind of fumbling over my words here. Speaking of Bucs news as it happens, you can check out my co-host Evan on Instagram at Bucs_daily, the #1 Buccaneers fan page on Instagram. You can also find him on Twitter at EvanNFL. I just got a Facebook friend request from somebody who's in the live chat. Thank you to James for being here. I know you're a busy guy. I think you're bailing on a school meeting right now to hang out and talk some Bucs with us. But where can people find you and your great content, Mr. Bucs Nation?
I gotta, you know, get my degree, boys. You know.
Yeah,
so,
I guess.
But you can find me on YouTube at Mr. Bucs Nation. You know, just actually posted my Leonard Fournette video earlier today, and talked about that. Just hit over 10K. Made a song about it. It's very not about that specifically. Made a Bucs song. Made a Bucs sea shanty. That was pretty fun. Got looks at the beach. And yeah, we have a lot more content coming out soon. It's going to be very exciting. And thank you guys for having me on as always.
Look, James almost ruined his Yeezys for you guys. So you guys better go watch that video.
Yeah. I did. I had to put my Yeezys in the dryer for an hour and a half after that video was done.
Every sneaker collector who watches our show just cringed at the same time when you said that.
When he told me that, I was like,
I was devastated.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but one last super chat from our guy, King Sefi.
Hey, thank you.
Sefe? I think I pronounced that incorrectly all 3 times, but coming in with the $3, donating to the Wendy's Fund, you are the man. Thank you, buddy. Yeah, don't throw
If you-
your Yeezys in the dryer, bro.
Well, no. I have we have like a thing that like sits in the dryer to where you can just put your shoes on. So what you do is you take the soles out of the shoes, put them next to the shoes, and it's like it keeps the shoes stable in the middle of the dryer while the heat just kind of cycles around it. You know what I mean?
Look at you, fancy.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
That's what all those YouTube bucks will get you.
But
Right?
hey, wait a minute. Hey, so I was gonna say something. We keep on talking about the Wendy's fun. You know, we're all gonna be together in November. We've got to do some type of Wendy's video.
Oh, man, I don't know if my arteries can take it. We got the King of the Wing Challenge, and then the day after that, we're going to be doing something
Yeah,
with Wendy's.
What do you think we are?
Trying to kill me,
Well,
dude.
we're talking about the Wendy's fun. We got to give the people what they're paying for here.
We'll do something for sure. We'll give the people what they want. Don't worry.
You know, my gosh. We're going to do one of those videos where it's like eat the entire Wendy's menu challenge.
Oh, my God.
All three of us, I think we could do it.
That's the riveting Bucks content people want throughout the offseason. Ladies and
sure.
gentlemen, before I forget, you can follow myself on Instagram and Twitter at Rhettakus, RHETTAKUS. Thank you so much for hanging out with us in the stream today. If you're listening on our audio sources after the fact, we do appreciate you as well. Everybody in the live chat, BK Jackson checking in. Big Gucci Sosa, I like that one. Frank G's been hanging out with us the whole time. Bucks Time 12, Nathan Elliott, Steve G, Pac-Man 504, TB12, Goat Man, and John Romulo.
Not forget
Lanuvo.
Willie either.
What's up?
Not forget my guy Willie.
Nope, cannot forget our guy Willie Beeman holding it down as the moderator in this thing. Your service is greatly appreciated. We'll talk to you guys the next time we have some Buccaneer news. I am your host, Rhett, signing off from my co-host, Evan, and my special guest, James Hill. We'll talk to you guys later. Until then.